So we're with Joel Caine here, and Joel's played first grade for how many years, Joel?
Probably full-time 8 years.
Full-time 8 years. And how long ago was it that you actually retired from the game?
Retired 2006.
2006. And we're now in 2016, 10 years out from the game. I just wanted to spend a few moments with you just so that we can reflect back on that career, firstly, and secondly, just see where you are right at the moment. So I've got a few questions. Hopefully you can help us out with that.
Yep, sure.
Beautiful. So first question to kick it off, why in particular NRL or rugby league?
I haven't really got the answer to that because it was just something that wasn't in the family.
Yep.
It was just something that I fell in love with at a young age.
Yep.
And I don't know why, but it was just that law of attraction, or that, just that laser-like focus towards that goal since I can remember. I don't know why.
Awesome. You say at a young age, when was that?
I was 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
Yeah.
Wow. So at that young age, or as you progressed through the game, what was it that actually made you realise that there was something there for you to go and pursue?
Yeah, again, I don't think it was something I realised. It was just something that I had to do. I was always going to do it. From the age of 5, I thought about it all the time.
Yep.
And it wasn't as if, what happens if I don't do that? It was just an assumption that that's what I was going to do.
Yep.
So, and never through my childhood did I ever think that wasn't going to happen.
Awesome. So then, in regards to effort, time, money, sacrifices, upon reflection, how much in each of those areas, so in effort, time and money, and even compromises, do you believe you committed or invested into pursuing a career in professional rugby league?
Yeah, for me, it was all chips in, right? And there's a book called Outliers.
Yep.
Have you read that?
Malcolm Gladwell?
Yeah. And he talks about 10,000 hours you need to master something. And I think that includes thinking about it, investing your time and emotionally in that as well.
Yep.
And I well and truly had that covered, by the time I got to that age. And
so that age, when you say that age?
That age of when I was actually being scouted by that this was going to become real. So I was going to head down to Sydney and wear an NRL jumper.
Yep.
Which was St George for me.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that where you invest your mind is huge. Even with the calling now, the commentary stuff, I've got a lot to go, a long, long way to go.
Sure.
But my wife often says, "Oh, this guy wants to get into commentary. He's about to finish playing," and she gets a bit bugged by that. And I say to her all the time, I've been thinking this way since I was 5 or 6. Wanting to call Melbourne Cups, wanting to call games. So the amount of hours I have in the logbook, you just can't turn up and do it.
Yes.
Unless you're some superhuman, right?
Yes.
You just can't.
Yes.
So for me, it's that surety and always just that laser-like sort of vision.
Single focus,
yeah.
100%, all chips in is what got you, firstly, to the NRL career that you had.
Yeah.
And secondly, the career after football.
Yeah, and I think the story would be different for a lot of guys. Like there's some guys who have just got the God-given physical capabilities. I've never had that, so I probably needed this kind of law of attraction type thinking more than most.
Yes.
Not being the world's fastest bloke, biggest bloke, skillful bloke, I had to just think my way there, basically. Yeah.
And work hard.
Work hard, yeah.
Awesome. Really good distinction to be able to separate that. So then when it comes to being out of your comfort zone, how did you deal with things that were coming at you that were outside of your known comfort zone and that was stretching you?
So I personally think that a lot of rugby league players, and I did when I was playing, and I like to think that I've learnt the lessons from my playing days to my now career, I reckon they struggle with success.
Yes.
So a lot of players, I would say, and this is probably a bit stereotypical, but I'd say that a lot of players come from not a lot of money.
Yes.
Not rugby union players, but rugby league players, mum and dad, council workers, etc. Right? Joe Knockabout type people.
Got it.
I reckon that a lot of those guys, when they have success, I call it like an inbuilt thermostat. they find a way to stuff it up. You know, they find a way to somehow throughout their career get back to the struggling life that they've become so accustomed to all their life. And you see it all the time with players, and you think, why did he bloody do that? He's earning $600,000 or $800,000 a year.
Yes.
And I think part of that is just they're not comfortable with life being a bit easy. They're used to getting loaves of bread with reduced quick sale on it. You know what I mean? And
got it. So what I'm hearing from you is
conditioning from them a bit,
a mindset that actually goes with it.
Sure.
So when it comes to the adversity, they're so accustomed to adversity that they expect it even when they're having success, so they make it harder for themselves rather than allowing that success to take place. Cool. Very interesting view on that. So then in regards to life in the game, you have a lot of team members around you that you rely on and that they rely on you, and you have a very clear role that you have to fulfill regardless of what position or where you're sitting on in the team structure and the hierarchy. In your new life, and I'll refer to it as life after football, what priority do you put on having team members around you that complement your skills?
Yeah, see, people are different. I think that the cross-section of a rugby league team would be no different to the cross-section of a banking team. You know, there are those who need to be around people all the time. There are other people who just like getting the job done themselves. You know, like people like to communicate differently. Some people just like the non-intrusive text or email. Other people want to be on the phone all the time. And that's fine for everyone, right? So I think that a rugby league team is basically identical to the workplace, despite how people see it out there. Where I think that the major challenges come, there's a few, is that firstly it's that importance. You know, you're not playing for a club and in the papers all the time. Secondly is, I think a major thing is, because I went through this, man, I was kicking stones big time, and I remember sitting on the side of the road, I had a heap of debt, we had our firstborn baby who wasn't sleeping, and I was crying on the side of the road. And when you speak to other players, and the stats might be 1 in 4 have a battle, but that's 1 in 4 disclosed, right? When you actually speak to most players, it's probably more like 80%. So I'm sitting on the side of the road, crying in the car because everything's just too much for me, you know? So it's that expectation which you put on yourself. Now, another part of this is that you get tricked into, when you're playing rugby league, into thinking that you are the whole entire universe. So you're part of the problem yourself. But the reality is, there's a front page on the paper today, and we may or may not have read it. But right now, no one's actually thinking about the frigging front page of the paper. So if you're further into that paper and you're a small part, reality is, as sadly as it sounds, no one actually gives a shit. People think about themselves 95% of the time. So therefore, if you can get around the fact that you're doing what you do because you love it, not because you're searching the adoration, you know, because people actually don't care about you. They honestly don't. They care about themselves and their family, and that's fine. Because, you know, so I think that remove that pedestal you put yourself on, for starters, and then the fall's not so high. Another big thing which I think plays a significant part, somebody said to me, when did you start getting unfit? I used to be the fittest in the club. And I said, I reckon the moment my firstborn was born, you know, it just takes over your life. And even now that I've realised, and I'm 30, almost 38, exercise is which this is something I've never been good at post-career, because I haven't had that motivation that fear of failure. Like, if I was playing first grade, if I wasn't fit, there was a fear of failure. If I'm not fit doing what I'm doing now, there's no real fear of failure. So I'm not driven by that fear of failure. But what you forget is the funniest times with your mates were on a Tuesday afternoon where you've just been absolutely flogged, right? Absolutely flogged on the field, but the endorphins are going through the roof. Happy endorphins. So I think a lot of players, and I'm very much guilty of this, retire and become very, very lazy, and your body's not challenging itself anymore. But they talk about the coral reef up there in Queensland. On one side you've got, you know, the oceans crashing into the coral, right? challenging it every day, and the coral there is super strong, it's colourful, it's vibrant. On the other side, there's a lake with the same coral sitting in that lake, but it's colourless, it's lifeless, because it's just not being challenged or asked the question. So I think that lack of challenges plays a big part as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful metaphor and so completely appropriate.
Yeah.
Not only for professional athletes, but across the entire spectrum of life. Awesome. I've got one final question, and I really appreciate you being so candid with that and trusting us with that information, because I know that a lot of people listening to this will actually be going through that.
Yep.
And certainly, if they haven't, they will be at some point. So one last question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew back when you were competing?
So,
and I mean from a sporting sense initially.
Yeah. One thing I wish, it's very hard to be told something. Sometimes you've got to learn it yourself. But one thing that I wish that well, you know what, to be honest with you, I'm lucky that I was one who did this. I'd always had my eye on the media stuff, but I was never ever a household name to be able to walk straight into it. So I had that sort of 4 or 5 year gap where I had to sort of, keep plying the trade, working in community radio stations and those things that weren't going to instantly pay the bills. So maybe if I had brought those forward and got those going a bit earlier, those sort of type of work experience things. But, things that I know now that I didn't know when I was playing, I know how important it is exercise, and I'm not fit, but I'm very much conscious of the fact that, okay, if I'm getting in a bit of a run, I need to get out there and do something because that works. The thing that people actually don't care about you've got to just realise that it's good what you're doing and it's a fantastic achievement, but that's not the be-all and end-all. There's many other players or people in the world who are out there making money and making a livelihood. The other thing is that success is not what makes you happy. So if you think about every single person you knew, if you wrote down the top 30 people you knew, it doesn't necessarily correlate with happiness. So some people, I've got one of my wife's friends is just a mum, and I don't mean just a mum, but that's what she does. And even before her being a mum, she'd be working in a surf shop, and she's the happiest person you know. So she knows how to find happiness, not just on the back of success. So that's, I think not being frivolous with your money. So understanding that if you come from a family who did it tough, it's a major threat on your ability to earn money. It's a major, major threat. So you've got to be conscious of that, because I've been through it. I came from that family, eldest of 6. We had no money. We struggled. I run into all this money and I bombed it. Whether it was bad investments or whatever the case may be, I bombed it. Now I realise that it's okay to want to prosper. And I'm still playing catch up, to be honest with you, from the mistakes I made from earlier days. But I've now accepted that, you know what, you are allowed to be successful with money, even though your parents weren't. So, but be mindful that if you're from one of those families, it's a huge disadvantage than those kids who just grow up in that law of abundance, land of abundance, if you like. So just be mindful of the fact that is a threat to you. University is one thing, but it's not for everyone. So for me, it's not. I'm not one who's going to be pushing my kids into university. If they wanted to do it, that's good. Yep. Mind you, they better be bloody doing something, right? But I think of the top 5 of my mates who are successful, they actually didn't go to university. So it's not all about that. Your life's experience, and they're different fields. Like, you don't have to be a dentist or a doctor or whatever to be successful or make money. Like, they've got different fields, and I don't know. I mean, I've probably missed a few things, but I think they're the things that I wish I had known these things back when I was playing.
Awesome.
Just the other thing I suppose is life is pretty simple at the end of the day. So the most successful coaches did things simple. So where I got trapped a bit when I was playing was getting a bit too flashy with investments and things like that. But I didn't really need to. I was earning enough money that if I had have just simply put 10% of my money away into a savings account, I would have finished off better than. Not that I recommend that would be the best way to go, but that would have actually been a better outcome than what I had done.
Yeah.
I suppose. Accept it as part of the process that when you finish playing football, there's going to be a 3 or 4 year transition period, but that's not going to be forever. So that's just part of the journey. That is when you invest. Imagine a banker who invested all his time, or for example, and it's a bad example, but the bloke who got locked up the other day in share trading. He's from a family with a shitload of money. He's done the wrong thing, and he'll lose his license. And he'll probably go on and earn millions and millions when he gets out again. That's fine. But a lot's going to be going through his mind right now. Like, what the hell am I going to do when I've spent my whole life in this industry? What am I going to do? Bad example probably, but it can happen in any industry. And you've just got to realise that you're not going to find that dream thing the moment you finish playing, or But it'd be nice to be able to make those vocational mistakes while you're playing. So I see so many blokes who finish their career at 30, and if they haven't done the right thing with their money, or even if they have, they're 10 years behind guys who have been in the workforce. And just on that, I think it's a huge advantage. Anyone I've seen successful have pretty much committed time in the game. So if you want to be a real estate agent, for example, commit to yourself that I'm going to be doing this for 12 years. It may be a tough first 3 or 4 years, but those who stay at it are the ones who are just achieving, So they're the things I probably think I wish I had known back in the day.
Awesome. Mate, absolute sage-like advice there, Joel, and in reality, the journey that you've gone through in life after football and upon reflection, I think the way you articulate it is phenomenal, and I know that everyone here will actually hear that. And probably the biggest takeout came right at the end for me, which is you've worked really hard to get into playing first grade rugby league, which is no dissimilar to what you said just a moment ago about becoming, for example, a real estate agent. Those first couple of years are going to be hard because you're living a split life, but it's going to yield for you in the future. And I think if there's one thing that everyone can take away from that, it is you've already got that skill and that ability to be able to go and do that right now. And on that, I think that's a perfect way to be able to finish our time together. I want to thank you very much for being able to articulate this. It's a really important message that we'll be making sure that we communicate even more to as many people as we can. So thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Craig. You're doing a great thing, so well done.
Good work. Thanks, mate.